It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm okay. We're okay. Everything's okay. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Leandra, the TBR0, and my goal is to slowly but surely lessen my physical TBR that is behind me. However, today my focus will instead be on the mid-year freakout tag. That might sound familiar, maybe because other booktubers are doing it. It is that time of year. We're about 6 months into 2023, so a lot of other booktubers are kind of reflecting on what they've done so far. But it also might sound familiar because I did do this tag back in 2022, so if you're interested in comparing my answers, seeing what kind of Leandra I was back then, because I do think I was a bit of a different reader, even if it was only a year ago, the link will be below for that. Also, if you're very much interested in more mid-year check-in content, this isn't going to be the only video that I focus on in regards to that. I do have a reading journal that I've been keeping. This is my second year doing a reading journal, and the more I do it, the more I enjoy it. I feel like last year was very much an experimental year. I was figuring out what statistics I was interested in, what I enjoyed about the reading journal, what I wanted to keep doing, what I wanted to stop doing. And so this is a bit more of a succinct, Leandra-focused journal. I think it actually meets my requirements a little bit better. The one thing I haven't been good about, though, is actually creating content and posting it on my channel. And so I will be doing a mid-year check-in for my bullet journal. That means 6 months of monthly spreads, yearly spreads, different reviews that I've been posting within the community, but then also here that maybe didn't get shown as, openly as it might have on my Instagram page, that type of thing. But I'm really looking forward to it, and I also am going to do the same thing I did last year, which is do a full 2-page spread that shows my mid-year statistics. I had a really great time creating that video last year. The link will be below for that if you're interested too, and I can't wait to do that here. Keeping up with various check-ins, I also just want to let you know what I've been reading so far, what I'm currently reading. Today was a very fun day. I participated in Neva from Reading Neva's 24-hour sprints. Usually she ends up being the host of all 24 hours. She is a superhuman being, but this time around she ended up delegating it and allowing the hours to spread out to 6 different channels. Each channel hosted for 4 hours, and it was such a good time. I was so grateful that she included me in that, and I hope she does so again. But I also have a big thank you to Nell from Nell Diamond. I also want to thank Chrissy from Stitch Life for Books, and of course Neva, who all 3 of them ended up joining me at some point or for the entirety of my sprinting for this morning, and it was just a really great time, so thanks. I ended up starting 2 books during those sprints. One of them was Islands of Abandonment. This is by Cal Flynn. It is nonfiction. It focuses on environmentalism and kind of the climate crisis, but in a really beautiful, optimistic light. I want to say that firstly, Cal Flynn does not sugarcoat anything, but what she does do is kind of highlight the areas in which human intervention, humans who were inhabiting a certain place, at one point they then abandoned it, and we do include islands, but she includes other areas of, even surprisingly in London and New York City, these very metropolitan urban settings also include these places of abandon. Nature not necessarily corrects, it's not necessarily restoring what was, but it's more of a redemption story, and that's how Cal Flynn describes it, and I really appreciated it. And I'm only 1 chapter in. We focused on Scotland because Cal Flynn is a Scottish journalist, and on that note, I do highly recommend Booktube with Amy. Amy's looking for Scottish reads for this year, so maybe this is something for you. It is nonfiction, but I'm really enjoying it so far. I also started The Hatmakers. This is a middle grade adventure fantasy novel by Tamsin Merchant. I believe that the second book, The Map Makers, came out in the last year as well, and I think this will be a very fun, whimsical side read, especially when I'm juggling it with a much heavier, albeit denser, nonfiction book on the environment. So yeah, that's what I'm currently reading. Okay, finally we are at the point where I actually go through the 13 prompts for this mid-year check-in tag. If you are a booktuber and you actually want to make your own video, or you're just someone who wants to play along and wants to see the questions ahead of time, those questions in timestamp form will be in my description, so please feel free to use them, and hopefully they're as accessible to you as I found them for the person who gave me those questions. And also, if you are a booktuber who is going to create your own video based off of it, let me know and tag me in the video once it's up, because you've come to my channel, you've supported me, I want to do the same for you. And yeah, on that note, if you haven't, maybe consider liking the video, consider subscribing, consider commenting, unless you want to wait to the end and comment what your own answers would be. But yes, okay, finally we're going to get to question 1. Question 1 is best book you've read so far. I've read a lot of great books. I don't tend to finish too many 2 or 1 star reads if I'm going to predict it that way. I usually end up DNFing it. So most of my reads are 3 stars or higher, which just shows this kind of nice richness where usually if I finish a book, I only have or mostly have good things to say about it. This title of best book, however, must currently go to Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. Just today and yesterday, I met a fellow kindred spirit, Margaret from The Word Nerd. She also adores this series so much. The 2nd book came out this year, Painted Devils. There is an anticipated 3rd book in this series too, so keep an eye out for that if you're interested in knowing when a book series finishes before you start it. It's on its way, but this is so good. It's YA fantasy. It is a retelling of The Goose Girl, but from the perspective of our villain, our wicked maid, Vanya Schmidt, which I absolutely love. She's a great morally gray character. She is demisexual representing, as is her romantic partner in the series. There's a lot more diversity beyond them as well, and it's really nice to see ace representation as someone who is also ace and who kind of struggles to find characters that properly represent you, especially because, I mean, I don't know, ace, along with any other type of LGBT plus representation, can be hard to find because all of our experiences are different. We don't necessarily represent each other when we're speaking our own perspectives. So I really appreciate when an author decides to provide a different, perspective, more diversity, and I think Little Thieves does that. I'm so excited for book 3. Why did Margaret Owen leave us on such a cliffhanger in a sense that I love her so much. She's a great author. I did do an author spotlight on Margaret Owen and these 2 books. I'll leave a link below for that. But oh my gosh, why did she do this to us? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm okay. We're okay. Everything's okay. Second question is the best sequel you've read so far. This was difficult, much more difficult than last year because I hadn't really read too many sequels in 2022. It's really nice to see a change in my reading habits. I'm picking up more series, I'm continuing more series, which is really great. That's always been a goal of mine. But the one I ended up having to give this title to is One Girl in All the World by Kendara Blake. This is the 2nd book in the In Every Generation series. Think of it as a Buffy 2.0 series. You can probably notice this branding franchise emblem with the bee if you are a huge fan of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer franchise. I have to say, I have actually only really watched the pilot episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. My own experience comes from Angel, the spinoff, so it is good to know, especially if you're thinking about picking this up but you're not a die-hard Buffy fan. I don't think you need to be. There's enough nuggets for those die-hard fans throughout, and there's also enough background information for you to never feel completely lost about what's going on. But this is a great, inclusive, paranormal YA series. I don't know why I'm reading so much YA this year. Another kind of interesting habit that's developed that I'm just riding the wave with. And we've got Frankie. She is this eco-witch turned slayer. I love the focus on just in regards to the climate change crisis, as you know from me reading Islands of Abandonment. I also am a huge fan of just eco-friendly books, and this is one of them that has a lot of fun with veganism, vegan clothing, just vegan products, and it's really fun to see. Her mom is Willow, the Red Witch. She obviously provides lesbian representation. We have a pansexual side character as well. So there's a lot going on, and it's really nice to see in a YA book that this type of representation is being brought on top of the fact that we've got very unserious, humorous, witty dialogue as we're fighting these demons and trying to protect Sunnydale, so it definitely keeps a bit of its original tone as the Buffy franchise did. So I really do like how it doesn't take itself seriously. Kendara Blake does such a great job keeping the whole franchise kind of whole while doing her own thing with these new characters and this like new Scooby gang. A new release you haven't read yet, but want to. So this actually was one of my very few pre-orders for this year, and that is A Good Day to Pie by Misha Pop. This is the second book in a Pies Before Guys mystery. The first book was Magic Lies and Deadly Pies, if I'm remembering the title correctly, and it is a cozy mystery that focuses a bit more on the magical realism type of elements. Our main character, let me remember her name firstly, Daisy. She bakes pies, she sells them out of her pie truck, but one unique aspect is that she actually is a bit of a vigilante baker. She has this ability to infuse certain feelings, certain emotions into her pies, and that includes some deadly concoctions. And what she was doing in the first book was she was using it to help women who were coming out of horrific domestic abuse situations. These were women who felt like they had no other way to get out, that the law just wasn't designed in a way to actually protect them from their abuser. And so basically Daisy took it into her own hands to deliver a death pie and basically help these women when the rest of society failed them. And it was really nice. As you can see, I'm a huge fan of morally gray characters because Vanya Schmidt in Little Thieves and Painted Devils is also a great character. So is Daisy. And I'm really interested to see where this series goes, especially because there was a bit of a love triangle in the first book between Daisy, this other woman, and then her neighbor. And so she ended up kind of at the moment choosing one over the other. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I think it's really interesting that she provides this kind of bisexual rep in a subgenre of mysteries that tends to be quite conservative. Being cozy mysteries, a lot of times they are very heteronormative, but this one provides some really good bi rep, and yeah, it was really interesting. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I have a few that are on my radar, but one that I'm really excited about, and I can't wait for the library to finally get it in, is actually by Tom Mead. It's the second book in the Death and the Conjurer series. I don't really think that's what it's called. It's probably actually called whatever the detective's name is, but I can't remember. So we're just gonna accept whatever it is. The second book, it is called The Fortune Wheel. I got the title wrong for the most anticipated release. What the heck? So it is The Murder Wheel by Tom Mead. Just so excited about it. As I move forward, I will be calling it The Fortune Wheel, but I promise you it is The Murder Wheel and it looks great. I will have the cover up so you can see what it looks like, and I'm just really excited about it. And I can't wait. Death and the Conjurer was one of my favorite reads, one of my fastest reads last year. I picked it up, read it in 2 days. It does such a great job of bringing back a lot of Golden Age classic type of elements because Tom Mead is an expert of John Dixon Carr, who was a Golden Age British mystery writer. He's technically American, but he ended up moving to Britain with his wife and whatever. He's oftentimes kind of taken on by the Brits, but he is technically American. And so I think that Tom Mead knows how to bring in those elements really well. I'm a huge fan of Golden Age detective fiction, so this is right up my alley. And I'm very much excited for Fortune Wheel to finally come out. I think it just came out this month, but I'm just waiting for my library copy to come in so that I can read it, support my library, and then if I adore it as much as I am anticipating, I will then buy myself a copy to go along with Death and the Conjurer, which I also own on my shelves. My biggest disappointment. What a transition from the book I'm most excited to the one that I'm most disappointed with. I hope that's not foreshadowing, but the one that I was most disappointed with, it would have to be actually one of my more recent reads. It was The Moon Represents My Heart. Failed to mention that the author of The Moon Represents My Heart is Pim Wong-Techawat. She is Thai Chinese writer who I believe was educated in the UK and now lives somewhere in the UK. It might be Scotland, but I also might be wrong there. Anyway, hopefully that's my last correction. This was a book that I was gifted from the publisher, so I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much, Blackstone Publishing, but it just ended up not being what I fully expected it to be. This is a book that has also been optioned for a Netflix miniseries apparently already, so I think that upped the ante of me thinking it was going to be just something so monumental for my type of reading standards, and it just kind of fell flat. But basically what excited me was the fact that it involved time travel. I was of course comparing it to Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. Mandel, which is time travel focused, and I think I had too many high hopes. And a lot of the men in that book in particular were just so selfish, and I felt like the way that the women depicted them, the way that the author kind of depicted them, was we were supposed to be a bit more sympathetic and just being like, oh, they're just these clueless men, they're doing their best. And I was like, well, no, they're selfish. I think the women are clueless. The women are far too accepting and far too submissive to allow the certain behavior that was going on, especially when it came to like infidelity and other things. And so yeah, the writing is gorgeous. It's kind of somewhat lyrical, somewhat vignette formatting, and we do kind of jump between timelines. It's multi-generational, so I really like those elements, but just the character development was really frustrating, and so that ended up making it a 3-star read for me, which was fine, you know, especially if it's beautiful writing. It was very easy to read. I was already hoping it was gonna be a 5-star, and it just wasn't. Biggest surprise read. Well, it's definitely gonna have to go to Ice Planet Barbarians, this sci-fi romance series that of course is blown up on the internet, blown up on TikTok and Instagram and every other thing. And I don't know, I didn't know what I was expecting. I thought it was just gonna be fun, it was gonna be fine, but I've had the best time reading it alongside Brittany from Brittany Loves Reading. In July, we will be starting book 7 for our Ice Planet Barbarians reading sprints that we do every other month. It's kind of nice to remember, July is the 7th month, we're starting book 7, and that was totally unintentional, but we're gonna go with it. And my own reading sprints are already scheduled for that, and I believe Brittany will schedule hers soon. But yeah, it's just so fun. The world is far more complex than you expect. There are so many characters that you feel for, that you're rooting for, and definitely book 2 is my favorite still. Gave that one 5 stars, and the others have kind of been a mix of 2, 3, and 4 stars, but I'm so invested in the series that I'm 100% willing to keep going. I've been doing them all on audiobook, which has been its own experience, and yeah, I am surprised by just how invested I am in this world. Newest favorite author. I mean, of course, it's gonna have to go to Margaret Owen. I just read Little Thieves and Painted Devils in 1 month together this year and just fell in love. And she's an author I'd never tried before this, so of course she's very much new to me, and hence I did an entire author spotlight video on her. So yeah, it's gotta go with her. Beyond that, a few other quick authors I suppose I could add on might be Emily J. Edwards. I just read Viviana Valentine Gets Her Man, and I really like the setting of 1950s New York City. I am already anticipating loving books 2 and 3. I've been accepted by NetGalley for both of those e-arcs, so I'm anticipating that will be a new favorite author of mine too. And yeah, no complaints about either of those authors. Newest fictional crush. I'm still someone who more so crushes on couples than I do on individual people. I just love it when a couple have this amazing emotional bond where they've just grown together, they support each other unquestioningly, and they're amazing. So my crushes will be the couples themselves. Of course, it's gotta be Vanya and Emmerich from Little Thieves. They're amazing. I love, again, the demisexual rep of both of these characters kind of growing to understand each other, being patient with each other, and just being really open, and it's just lovely. I am still in love with Shane and Red from the Severed Thread. That was actually the second book. The first book is The Bone Spindle, so if you're looking up that series, that's the series to look up. It's by Leslie Vedder, and that's a really great sapphic romance, and it's YA. It's also a retelling of The Bone Spindle, so that one's really great too. And yeah, there's just been a lot of great romances to appreciate this year. The wedding season had a great couple who kind of were feeling each other out, hate to love, but in between friendship to love, which of course I appreciate whenever that happens. I feel like that's super realistic in books, and that one was by Katie Birchall. Just a plethora of crushes on couples where they are hashtag couple goals, I guess is the hashtag that people may or may not be using still. How out of the loop am I? Be honest. Newest favorite character. This is important, it's newest, so I can't talk about any characters that I've already loved back in the day. I would have to say that Frankie from In Every Generation, that series, she was mentioned in the Kendara Blake book that I said was my favorite sequel. She has just grown on me. I really enjoyed, the first book with her and with the gang, but this second book, she really shined through, and I feel like all of the other characters grew to understand her, and I grew to understand her uniqueness as a slayer, not just because she's an eco-witch, but personality-wise, her kind of rationality and kind of chaos of her being this quirky, ridiculous person, being like, I can't believe I'm fighting demons, this is crazy, and I feel like that just is really relatable, and I found her very funny and endearing. I also obviously fell in love with Vanya. I can't shut up about her. I know, I'm so sorry. I can't shut up about her. One book that I'm in the middle of right now that I think I will end up really appreciating this character is Ford Prefect from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. I don't know what's taken me so long, but I'm already really enjoying it. I'm about 20% in, and so I think it's a bit premature, but I think I can say that he's going to be one of my favorite characters moving forward in that series too. A book that made you cry. Hands down, this book might be a bit of a jarring title, just to warn you. People Love Dead Jews by Dara Horn. This is a nonfiction book that basically investigates why the world throughout history, not just in modern times, has this obsession with particularly the mass genocide of Jews throughout history and the various different elements across the world as well. So not just in what I believe is the most well-known World War II Holocaust setting. This has been happening worldwide for centuries, and Dara Horn, as someone who is of the Jewish faith, and she is also a renowned scholar in Hebrew and Yiddish literature, she did a mass amount of research, as well as kind of looking at herself in her own life growing up with this understanding about her own religion and her own culture. And it was really powerful. It was really fascinating. I cried multiple times. I did pair it once in a while with the audiobook, and the voice narrator for that does a great job as well. And so however you want to consume this book, I highly recommend it. But just prepare yourself for all of the vital knowledge that, I don't know, has just become invaluable. A book that made you happy. Well, I'll have to say that one book that made me happy, not because of its genre necessarily, or because of how, like giddy and joyful its themes were, but The Wedding Season by Katie Birchall. I already kind of mentioned that when I was talking about my favorite couples, but the main character in that, Freya, the reason why this book made me so happy was because I think the author did such a great job with her character arc, especially because at the beginning of the book, she experiences the ending of a relationship that was a decade long. It might have been 12 years, and the other person ended this relationship. So now Freya has to just reevaluate her entire life. Her entire 20s was dedicated to this relationship, and so now every single memory, every single growing experience was tied to this other person, and the fact that this person decided that basically that she would be happy with this person, but that person would feel like they're missing out on the rest of their lives with her, is just completely devastating. And so she had to kind of rethink of why did she think this relationship would have been good enough for her, maybe reevaluating what was going on and just reassessing the imperfections that she was okay with back in the day, but now as a woman in her 30s might have reflected on and been like, no, moving forward, if I'm in a relationship again, I wouldn't allow this to happen, or this wouldn't play out the way that it did. And there's this really great scene at the end where she has this closure, this moment with this other person, with her past partner, and she is just her confident self. She sets her own boundaries. She makes sure that she says what she needs to say, especially because when they first broke up, she wasn't given this ability. She was immediately forced into space because it was the best thing to do at the time. And I really like how it played out and how she was able to then herself walk away from this person knowing that that door is closed and just being happy with it. So yeah, that was such a happy book in regards to this woman like finally being okay with herself, being single, being on her own, and like knowing that she's good enough for herself. It was great. The most beautiful book you bought this year. That is gonna have to go with Salvaged by Madeline Rowe. Just look at that detail. It's just this gorgeous, beautiful sci-fi horror book, which is kind of crazy to be like, that's the most beautiful book that I currently am obsessed with, but I'm so excited to read it. It was recommended to me by someone who commented on my videos. I believe his name was Zach. Thank you so much. I had mentioned that I was going to be reading Dead Silence, and he said, if you like that book, this is the book you need to read, because this one is actually one that he said he preferred. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna trust this person, they know what they're talking about. And so I ended up getting it, and yeah, it is gorgeous. I'm so excited. And finally, the last prompt includes books you need to read by the end of the year, which, you know, is really hard as someone who's Leandra the TBR Zero. Basically anything on my TBR is up for game. It would be great to get through those and read them and just thoroughly enjoy them. But I did pull a few titles that caught my eye that would be really nice to read by the end of the year. They're 10 titles. I'm going to rapid fire show them, and then we'll just wrap it up. Unbowed, a memoir by Wangari Maathai. Eager Beavers Matter by Ben Goldfarb. Constellations, a collection of short nonfiction essays by Sinead Gleason. Not All Bastards Are From Vienna. This is a translation by Andrea Malassini. A Children's Bible by Lydia Millett. The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker. Rochester Knockings. This is a fictional translation story of, like, it's a retelling of the Fox sisters, who were real life women who practiced being mediums and, you know, knocking on walls, speaking with spirits. And it's just, I'm originally from Rochester, so I'm really excited about this one. And this is by Hubert Haddad, and this was originally translated from French, which is just really interesting. The Manual of Detection by Jedediah Barry. Goldilocks by Laura Lamb. And The Revisionaries by A.R. Moxon. And an 11th one, just because I just got in the mail today and I'm very excited about it, is Capture the Sun by Jesse Mahalik. This is something that I didn't really know much about, but Danny from Danny Dabbles says that book 1 was really great, and this is book 3. So I'll definitely have to be reading books 1 and 2 before I read this one, but either way, still super excited about it. Okay, that was the mid-year freak out tag. Hopefully there was no freaking out, and I don't think I was freaking out. Do you think I was freaking out? Be honest. Either way, let me know what your own thoughts are about these books. Maybe let me know which books in the books I need to read by the end of 2023 stack. If there's any that caught your eye that you think I should prioritize. Thank you so much for being here, being at the end of the video, for just having fun with me while we talk about books. I really appreciate it. Say hi in the comments, like, subscribe, and have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your 2023.